A revenge tale. The reckoning. The chains gnawed at my wrists, steel biting into raw flesh. Blood trickled down my arms, mixing with the sweat and grime caking my skin. Each breath sent a stab of pain through my cracked ribs, 3, maybe 4, from the beating they'd given me. I hung suspended in the damp basement of Sheriff Harlan's sprawling estate, my boots barely brushing the concrete floor. The air reeked of mold, rust, and the sharp copper tang of my own blood. Above, through the creaking floorboards, I heard the splash of water, the clink of glasses, and my wife's laughter, brittle and false, cutting deeper than any knife. Sheriff Harlan's voice slithered down from the pool deck. "Well, look who's awake. Our little cuckold." He lounged in a wicker chair, one arm slung around my wife Lila, who didn't spare me a glance. Her red bikini gleamed under the patio lights, and she sipped a martini, her lips curled in a smirk. "Perfect timing," Harlan drawled, his voice dripping with malice. "My boys are going to have their fun with you. Then they're heading for your daughter, Ellie. My daughter, 16, all fire and defiance, with her mother's eyes and my stubborn streak. She was somewhere in this hellhole, locked away or worse. The thought of Harlan's men touching her ignited a fire in my chest, burning through the pain. I wasn't just John Cade, broken and bleeding. I was Lieutenant Colonel John Cade, 75th Ranger Regiment, forged in the crucible of 3 wars, survivor of 100 firefights. These backwater thugs thought they'd finished me. They were about to learn what happens when you corner a man who's already walked through hell. One of Harlan's goons stepped forward, a wiry bastard with a shaved head and a switchblade. A butane torch hissed in his other hand, the blue flame casting shadows across his pockmarked face. "This is gonna be fun," he said, licking his lips. He pressed the blade to my chest, carving a shallow line across my pecs. Pain flared, hot and sharp, but I didn't flinch. I'd taken worse in Kandahar, pinned under rubble with shrapnel in my leg. I locked eyes with him, memorizing every detail, scar on his cheek, crooked nose. He'd be the first to die. Harlan's empire was a cancer eating this town alive. Drugs, extortion, missing persons. Nobody touched him because he wore the badge. I'd been digging into his operation for 6 months, ever since Ellie started asking why her mom came home at dawn, smelling of whiskey and lies. Lila swore it was nothing, just late shifts at her boutique. But I found the ledgers in her office, tracking Harlan's dirty money through her shop. When I confronted her, she cried, promised to explain. Instead, she lured me to a meet at an abandoned mill where Harlan's men jumped me. Now here I was, dangling like a slab of meat, while Lila played queen by the pool. The goon, let's call him Scarface, grinned as he dug the blade deeper, blood welling in the cut. "Military types always think they're tough," he sneered, waving the torch closer. The heat kissed my skin, raising blisters. "Let's see how tough." My fingers, numb from the chains, twitched. For the last 10 minutes, I'd been working a sliver of wire I'd palmed from a broken light fixture when they dragged me in. The cuffs were old, rusted, standard issue for a small-town sheriff too cheap to upgrade. Scarface was too busy gloating to notice. One more twist, and... click. The cuffs sprang open. I dropped, boots slamming the floor, pain shooting through my legs. Scarface's eyes widened, but I was already moving. My fist crashed into his throat, cartilage crunching under my knuckles. He gagged, dropping the knife and torch. I caught the blade midair, spun, and buried it in his gut. He screamed, a wet, gurgling sound, and I twisted the knife, feeling it grind against bone before yanking it free. Blood sprayed, hot and sticky, painting my arms. The second goon, a hulking brute with a buzz cut and a tire iron, charged me. I sidestepped, using his momentum to slam his face into the concrete wall. His nose shattered with a sickening crack, and he crumpled, blood pooling beneath him. I didn't have time to savor it. Footsteps pounded above. More of Harlan's men, alerted by the screams. 2 burst through the basement door, pistols drawn. Amateurs. They hadn't even checked if I was secure. I grabbed Scarface's torch and hurled it at the first one's chest. The flame caught his flannel shirt, and he screamed, flailing, his gun clattering to the floor. His partner fired, bullets chewing the wall behind me. I dove behind a stack of crates, heart hammering, and scanned the room. My gear, sidearm, tack vest, was gone, stripped when they jumped me. But the basement was a smuggler's stash, crates of rifles, bricks of cocaine, and jackpot, a crate labeled explosives. I pried it open with the knife, revealing a nest of M67 fragmentation grenades, military surplus, reliable as death. I grabbed 2, yanked the pins, and lobbed them at the door. The goons didn't have time to scream. The blast shook the room, shrapnel shredding wood and flesh. When the dust settled, the doorway was a smoking ruin, and the goons were in pieces, their blood slicking the floor. I armed myself. A Beretta 92 FS from a dead goon's holster, a sawed-off double-barrel shotgun from the crate. My chest burned, blood oozing from the cuts, but adrenaline kept me sharp. I had to find Ellie. Harlan's estate was a fortress. 10 acres of manicured lawns, high stone walls, and at least a dozen armed men. I'd faced worse odds in Fallujah, pinned down by insurgents with nothing but a jammed M4 and a prayer. This was personal. The basement door was steel, locked tight. A shotgun blast to the hinges blew it open, shards of metal pinging off the walls. I stepped into a dimly lit hallway, moving low, the Beretta raised. Voices echoed, Harlan's men, scrambling to respond to the explosion. "He's loose! Check the girl!" one shouted. My blood ran cold. Ellie was alive, but not for long if they reached her first. I pressed against the wall, listening. The hallway led to a staircase, and I took it 2 steps at a time, my ribs screaming with each movement. At the top, a goon rounded the corner, AK-47 in hand. I fired first, the Beretta's 9mm round punching through his forehead. He dropped like a stone, and I grabbed his rifle, slinging it over my shoulder. The house was a gaudy maze, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, oak paneling, a testament to Harlan's blood money. I followed the sound of splashing water to the pool deck where Harlan still lounged, oblivious. He was there, sprawled in his chair, Lila draped across him like a trophy. 2 goons stood guard, their eyes scanning the darkness beyond the patio lights. Ellie wasn't with them. Good. That meant she was still alive, somewhere in this sprawling nightmare. Harlan laughed, his hand sliding up Lila's thigh. "Told you, baby," he said. "Your man's done. Nobody crosses me." I crouched behind a potted fern, weighing my options. Charging in would get me shot. I needed chaos. My eyes landed on the poolside bar. A propane tank sat beneath the grill, its valve rusted and loose. Sloppy. I steadied the Beretta, exhaling, and fired. The tank erupted in a fireball, glass and wood splintering across the deck. The goons dove for cover, and Harlan scrambled to his feet, cursing. Lila screamed, clutching her martini glass, the liquid sloshing over her trembling hands. I sprinted forward, shotgun raised. One goon popped up, fumbling with his pistol. I fired, the buckshot tearing through his chest, sending him sprawling into the pool, blood clouding the water. The second tried to flank me, but I spun, dropping him with a headshot from the Beretta. Harlan was running now, dragging Lila toward the house. I let them go. My focus was Ellie. Inside, the house was pandemonium. Alarms blared, red lights flashing in the corridors, footsteps pounded, more of Harlan's men converging. I moved room to room, clearing each with precision. In the kitchen, a goon with a machete came at me, his blade whistling through the air. I caught his wrist, snapped his arm at the elbow, and slammed his face into the granite counter. Bone crunched, and he went limp. In the dining room, another tried to ambush me from behind a curtain. I emptied the AK's magazine into him, the rounds shredding velvet and flesh. Ellie's voice, faint but unmistakable, cut through the chaos. "Dad!" she screamed, her cry muffled. My heart lurched. I bolted up the grand staircase, kicking open doors. The third room was locked, the handle rattling under my grip. I heard her again, closer now, and a man's voice low and threatening. I backed up, pain be damned, and rammed the door with my shoulder. The wood splintered, and I stumbled into a small bedroom. Ellie was there, tied to a chair, her left cheek bruised, blood trickling from a cut above her eye. Her hands were bound behind her, but her eyes blazed with defiance. A goon stood over her, a snub-nosed revolver pressed to her temple. "Back off, or she's dead," he growled, his hand shaking. I didn't negotiate with dead men. The shotgun roared, and his head vanished in a red mist, his body slumping to the floor. Ellie flinched but didn't cry. She was my kid, tougher than most soldiers I'd served with. I dropped to my knees, cutting her ropes with the knife. "You okay?" I asked, my voice rough. She nodded, wincing as she rubbed her wrists. "Get them, Dad. All of them." I pulled her into a quick hug, my hand brushing her hair like I used to when she was small. Then I handed her the Beretta. "Stay behind me. Shoot if you have to." She took it, her grip steady, though I saw the fear in her eyes. I'd never wanted this life for her, but Harlan had forced my hand. We moved back downstairs, Ellie covering my 6. Harlan's men were regrouping, their shouts echoing through the smoke-filled halls. I had the advantage now. Surprise was gone, but so was their confidence. In the foyer, 3 goons were hunkered behind an overturned table. I tossed a grenade, the explosion sending wood and bodies flying. I followed it, picking off a survivor with the AK, his scream cut short by a bullet to the throat. Harlan's office was at the end of the hall, the door ajar. I signaled Ellie to wait and crept inside. Harlan was there, fumbling with a wall safe, his revolver on the desk. Lila cowered behind him, mascara streaking her face. "You're a dead man, Cade!" Harlan spat, grabbing the revolver. He fired, the bullet grazing my shoulder, hot pain lancing through me. I dove, tackling him into the desk. The revolver skittered across the floor. Harlan clawed at my face, but I was stronger, fueled by rage. I pinned him, my knee on his chest, and grabbed a grenade from my belt. His eyes widened, pupils shrinking to pinpoints. "This is for Ellie," I said, my voice low and cold. I shoved the grenade into his belt, the metal clinking against his buckle. He screamed, a high, pig-like squeal thrashing under me. I yanked the pin and rolled away, shielding myself behind the desk. The blast was deafening, a thunderclap that painted the walls with blood and shredded Harlan's tailored suit. Lila screamed, collapsing into sobs, her hands scrabbling at the floor, slick with gore. I didn't look at her. She'd chosen her side when she sold me out. Ellie burst in, Beretta raised, her eyes wide but focused. "Dad, you okay?" I nodded, wiping blood from my face, the sting of it sharp. "Yeah, we're getting out, now." The estate was burning, flames licking the walls and the chandeliers crashing to the floor. Sirens wailed in the distance. Harlan's deputies, no doubt on his payroll, racing to clean up the mess. I grabbed a duffel from the safe, cash, ledgers, a USB drive with enough dirt to bury Harlan's allies. We ran, weaving through the smoke-choked corridors. In the garage, a black SUV gleamed, keys in the ignition. I floored it and smashed through the iron gate, metal screeching as we tore into the night. Ellie sat beside me, the shotgun across her lap, her hands steady despite the bruises. "What about Mom?" I asked, her voice barely audible over the engine. I gripped the wheel, jaw tight, the betrayal still raw. "She chose him, Ellie. She's gone." She nodded, staring at the road ahead, her face a mix of grief and resolve. She'd lost her mother, but she hadn't lost me. We'd survive this together. The highway stretched into the darkness, the stars cold and distant. Harlan's empire was ashes, but I knew his kind. Someone would rise, another predator sniffing the power vacuum. I'd be waiting. For Ellie, for the soldiers I'd lost, for the man who'd clawed his way out of hell this tonight, I'd be ready.